Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bylaws meeting officially. Um, Again, Jose Gamero Georgeson, he, him, el pronouns. Coach Isa is not able to make it today, but we will move on and he will join us next time if there is a next time. Next slide, please. The agenda for today, as you can see, most of it is just working on the bylaws. Next slide. And some meeting instructions and reminders. We're going to go over the notes of this meeting, adopted work agreements, continued process improvement. Um, and the meeting, as always, is recorded via Zoom, posted online for transparencies. Please update your names. Mine keeps changing, so I will update my name too. Um, uh, Please raise your hand, though there are very few of us, so that will be a lot more lenient than usual. Because it's either going to be Dan or Maya for the most part. Um, but please say your name every time you speak, just so that for accessibility reasons. All the materials for this meeting are online, are on our SEC Portland.gov page under events. And as always, Wing is here to help us with any tech issues that may arise. Thank you, Wing. Next slide, please. And the working agreements. Maya or Dan, who wants to read the bolded parts?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
All right. Speak with clarity and focus. Wait, why am I talking? Assume good intentions, but attend to impact. Be willing to make mistakes and be forgiving of those who do. Allow for and appreciate disagreement of opinions, ideas, methods, respectfully. Build on other people's ideas. We value participation, both in person and virtual.
Thank you, Commissioner Dan. And speaking of participation, thank you very much, Commissioner Luna, for joining us from Makara so we can have quorum. Much, much appreciated. Next slide, please. Okay, process improvements. Um, just a couple of things. Commissioner Lee had to step down from the bylaws committee. We now have 6 commissioners and 1 alternate on our committee. Hopefully tonight we'll finalize our initial draft of the bylaws, and then they'll go through one more round of city attorney and review by CSO Vivian Satterfield. Then we'll meet in April to respond to their review. And then once we respond to their review, we'll bring the full bylaws to the whole commission for adoption in May. External communications disclosure, just a reminder that if we want to make stricter guidelines than what we have, we must define them in our bylaws. We are going to do live amendments or bylaws tonight using the Zoom chat to propose amendments, and then staff will amend the bylaws in the Microsoft document. Um, Hopefully that will go seamlessly. We'll speak that into being. Next slide, please. And this is a process. If anyone has any question, the all-up draft version will be up for live review and editing. And then, like I said, everything in the chat, raise your hand to discuss, and we'll discuss them as they get put it in. Depending on how it goes, we might vote on a block of them. They seem very non-contentious. So if we have one that's a lot more intense, then might pull that one aside so we can vote on it separately. They are approved during modified consensus. Any questions about this? Nope. Great. Next slide, please. Okay, we're at public comment and we have no public comment, so we'll move on to the next item, which is starting to amend the bylaws draft. So, first, we'll have some feedback from Senior Deputy City Attorney Maja Hayam on our amendments last month, and we'll start with addressing those comments and edits. Elaine will guide us through that, starting with section 4. And if Elaine, if you could share all up on your screen and share the viewing link with the commission, I think that's already actually been shared. Um, the link's in the chat for anyone who has not seen it. I am actually very excited because I am now on a computer that has three screens, so I can have so many things open all around me. Um, but I believe if there's any tech issues with this, again, Wing's here to help. Um, put your amendments in Zoom chat as they come up. But Elaine, uh, did you want to start?
Yes, I'll start us out. Um, just to clarify, I shared the viewing link via email.
Oh,
So
yes.
hopefully you all can access that. Um, I'm trying to follow the guidance we got from tech services to see if the tech will work for us. But with my share screen, I'll review the feedback from our Senior Deputy City Attorney Maya Hyam. So starting with section 4, all of the edits given from Maya were really removing some words, some capitalization, so nothing of substance there other than some document consistency in section 4. So you can see that on A2, A3, and B in section 4. Similarly, for section 5, we have some edits of capitalization. Those are all of the edits that we have. And then I did get some feedback, um, Commissioner Maya, to your question about if we need to define official capacity. Um, the long and short of it is that it is sufficient to say official capacity here on the co-chairs, but it's up to you all if you want to define it more. What official capacity means is anytime the co-chairs are in a place where they're speaking for the full commission. So an example is when we were invited to City Council, Co-Chair Jose and Co-Chair Isa gave statements. And that was a moment in which they were representing the full commission. This could also be beyond co-chairs. So another example, Commissioner Maya, especially for you, is that you're volunteering for the Earth Day event and you will be at the table. That is a moment in which you are representing the full commission. So it's important that if you have, thoughts about things that aren't related to the full commission, that you disclose that. But that is the definition of official capacity. And then there's a few other, section B, you can see she deleted a word. So really not too much of substance. And then where we are starting for editing is section 6. So she gave feedback just to review for voting purposes, section 4 and section 5.
I actually have a question. Um, I don't know if it's under this duration section where the um was put in. And I don't know if this is something that needs to go to the attorney or we need to decide or how it works. But how does Issa and I work? Because we're working not under this framework. So how how does it affect us? What does it mean?
Yes. So when we created this committee, you all were elected until bylaws were adopted. So the goal is that you all finalize bylaws tonight. It goes through one city attorney review. You all meet the beginning of May to respond to any city attorney review comments, and then bringing that to the full commission for adoption at the full commission May meeting. So that would mean that we would go into elections in June, as long as we have the next cohort of youth commissioners on who can be a part of that. So that's part of city council proceedings where we are scheduled to be on the agenda in city council, but ultimately city council could they have control over their agenda, right? So that's where we're at. That elections will happen once bylaws are adopted and our next youth cohort are on.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so where are we starting?
So right now we need a vote or a proposal to vote to accept the proposed amendments from city attorney in section 4 and in section 5.
Okay, so I'm not gonna call for motions, or do I have to? There's four of us. Okay, is there a
So,
motion?
yeah,
Or
someone just
can I
needs to
just,
propose.
anyone want to make that proposal to approve those
Yeah,
changes?
I propose to approve the city attorney's changes.
Perfect. It's been proposed. So remember the way we vote, we'll vote by modified consensus, vote for it, stand aside, or it doesn't work for you. Um, all the yeses, say raise your hand right now for yes. Okay, three yeses, and me too. So I don't need to do the other ones. Okay, great. Changes have been adopted unanimously. Appreciate it. Okay. Now, I did watch the last recording and I saw all the conversations, but I don't recall off the top of my head what section we left off at. So where do we have to start back up, Elaine?
You all are starting on section 6 committees.
Perfect. Okay, committees. There's the very short section. Right now, it's this little section right here. Are there any changes being proposed, amendments for this section? Maya? Commissioner Maya?
Commissioner Maya speaking. Uh, I mean, it's pretty broad. So I feel like it'd be hard to violate. Is that a benefit? I feel like there was a lot of confusion in the actual establishment of the implementation, a policy and implementation committee. Um, and I'm wondering if it would be beneficial to have. Maybe it's too much for the bylaws, but I'm just curious if it's beneficial to like build out a process more for this, or if we should just keep it to like this high level um description.
Elaine?
Thanks, Co-Chair Jose. And this is Elaine speaking. Thank you, Commissioner Maya, for this question. Obviously, I'm going to say it's your all's decision if you want to have more process. I just want to highlight that our Chief Sustainability Officer, Vivian Satterfield, always sets the agendas and ultimately would have to put it on the agenda that a committee is being created. So that's one thing that doesn't need to be in here and is also in city code that we're held to.
Thank you. Yes. The only thing I was thinking is to maybe at the end that last line says, subject to public meeting laws, must operate abide by operating procedures outlined herein. And I was gonna put something of like must work within our available resources because that's been a constraint of ours, and I don't want to put us in a situation where we just vote to create three committees if we can't actually have three committees. There's nothing here that stops us from doing that per se, but putting something like it must work with the resources at our disposal might be enough to be like, well, we might not be able to have committees, but it still keeps it broad enough that it shouldn't be bad. Anyone's thoughts? Commissioner Dan?
Yeah, Commissioner Dan, D3. Um, yeah, I kind of agree with that. Um, particularly after like looking at the audit and like thinking about what we want to say to try to expand the capacity of what staff can do for this. But I just want, I just agree. Um, and it must work. Okay. With the resources of the commission.
I'm not the best at writing.
No, yeah, I'm looking at it to
So if
see like
anyone
how
has
I,
better words than I just put up there, that's just what I was thinking. So
yeah. Or yeah, oh yeah, maybe resources is maybe broad enough or maybe enough to say, but
yeah, because I agree with Elaine that keep me broad and that Vivian does have the ultimate thing. But if we were at a meeting, we were having a conversation about making a committee, and then we voted to create two committees when we don't have the staff for it. I don't want us to be able to do that. Yes, thank you, Commissioner Maya. I like that better. Commissioner Maya?
Commissioner Maya speaking. Yeah, I wrote committee creation is subject to the capacity and resources of, should we say
The
the
commission?
the commission and city staff, or
yeah,
Just the commission, because it's the resources by the commission. I think maybe Elaine has an answer. Elaine?
Yeah, I would actually recommend being broader here because as we have committees that are made by subject matter experts, they may not be commission staff, but are hosting committees as they are the subject matter experts of those committees. So I would say the city is my recommendation.
The commission and or the city or just the city?
I think you all have to decide that, but I would recommend not limiting it to the commission because that legally could be read as in like only commission staff, which I don't think we're trying to limit us. I think we're trying to be realistic to the resources.
Okay. So instead of the resources of the commission, just put the resources of the city. Thank you, Commissioner Maya, for putting that in the chat. Commissioner Dan?
yeah, I was Commissioner Dan, D3. Yeah, I think what Commissioner Luna and also what Commissioner Maya said exactly what I was going to say too. Is just like resources of the city. Um, yeah, and Commissioner Luna, thank you for that. I would say maybe, yeah, maybe even not even saying commission and or maybe just to straight up say city.
Yeah, I
I
think
would
Commissioner
probably,
Maya,
I would vote for that,
yeah. I think
personally.
it covers it because we are part of the city, right? So saying the city does cover the commission and it covers anything else that may be under the city. So it just, like Elaine said, keeps it a much bigger umbrella in case anything changes. Does this sound good to everyone? Okay, so let's just vote on the sections unless there's any other amendments to the section. Any other ones?
Wing has a hand up.
Oh, Wing?
Thank you. For the record, Wayne Grabowski, BPS meeting support. This is a technical thing. I'm making edits, not seeing them in the share. So I'm going to ask if I can go ahead and just share my document. And Elaine, just for the record as well, uh, not for the first time, this document isn't shared in track changes when you send it to me. So just be aware that that is a thing.
Thank you, Wing. And I will say it wasn't showing up on the share, but I have the file open and the changes are showing up there because I'm seeing them appear. But thank you. If Wing can share his screen, that might be helpful to everyone. And okay, so seeing no other ones. So for section 6, committees, yes. Anyone who votes yes, please raise your hand. Okay, That's all of us. So unanimous. Moving on to communications. Thank you, everyone, for being so fast. Communications. This section is also not super big, but we've had more discussions around communication both in the larger committee meeting, especially. So there may be some questions about this. So any amendments, please put them in the chat. Elaine?
Thanks, Co-Chair Jose. For the record, this is Elaine speaking. I just want to see if we want Commissioner Maya to talk about their comments, as they have some comments in this document and to get discussion started.
Commissioner Maya, would you like to speak to those comments? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, Commissioner Maya speaking. I haven't looked at this since December, like this section, but I'll just go through quickly and jog my own memory. In the first sentence where it reads, commissioners agree that transparency is essential to all deliberations, I added a question about should we add the word outreach, considering that we would probably be interfacing with community groups more, and it might not be the full commission doing so. I'm not sure. So I think that was the first thing. I don't know if we should talk through each point individually or I should just read through the whole thing.
Let's talk about the points.
Yeah.
Outreach.
Okay.
Commissioner Dan, did you have something? No.
No, I was agreeing with you. I was agreeing
Yeah.
with each point.
I will say that when we do outreach, maybe this should be a different sentence, but in my mind, when any of us is doing outreach on the behalf of the commission, it should be not deliberations. It shouldn't be something we're trying to decide on, but more information gathering. It shouldn't be like, we're going to talk about this, and this is my opinion. It's more, we're going to talk about this, and what is your opinion? So we can get a lot of information for the public, or maybe this is what we talked about, and here's all the things we went over, and sharing information that way, but never really your personal opinion. What are the thoughts, Commissioner Maya?
Yeah, Commissioner Maya speaking. Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. I think it's just more in the spirit of transparency overall. Even I was thinking like even in seeking outreach, or even participating in outreach, we should be agreeing to be transparent, so we're not taking meetings in secret, for example. But that was just where that's coming from, and I agree what you're saying, Commissioner Jose.
Commissioner Dan?
Yeah, Commissioner Dan, D3. I think maybe the first sentence being about deliberations, maybe like deliberations should be maybe its own topic. And then it's like commissioners agree that transparency is essential to all communications, or like all, like maybe the first sentence is like maybe more is even broader. Because like absolutely we should be transparent in our deliberations, but maybe we should be like getting to like what Commissioner Maya was kind of getting at was like anytime we're communicating, there's a transparency, like should be a transparency understanding or agreement as it working in an official capacity, right? And so so maybe like I think we should still call out deliberations in communications, but also maybe it's the first sentence should maybe be broader than that. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of my thought.
Elaine?
Thank you, Co-Chair. For the record, this is Elaine speaking. I'm realizing that this language comes from the template from Civic Life and is actually a little confusing because one of the tenets that causes public meeting is deliberation. That's one of the three. So if deliberating is happening, that has to be in public meeting, and that's already public meeting law. So this sentence is actually pretty confusing. I just want to point that out with the calling out deliberations in the way it is.
Thank you, Elaine. I actually like Maya's better than what I wrote. In the chat, the one that Maya wrote in, um, does that sound like something that would be a better fit for that sentence? It would make it a little more clear, and it also um, broadens the scope. Okay. Any other thoughts about the first sentence? Great. The oh, Commissioner Dan.
Um, I know previously we kind of had done this like as a like we've been voting. Sorry, Commissioner Dan D3. Um, we've been voting like as a whole, but do we want to do each piece or do we want to just continue to just wait?
I think we're going to do it as a whole because
Okay.
every vote
All right.
takes time.
Yeah,
It takes
totally. All
forever.
right.
Unless I think something's contentious and half of us agree and half of us don't, we might vote
Okay.
on that at the moment
Okay.
just to
Cool.
like move on.
Sounds good.
Commissioner Maya, do you want to go over some of the other things you wrote about, Commissioner Maya?
Yes, Commissioner Maya. I actually just want to say regarding my proposal, I'd like, I think I would change it. Maybe my own thing that I just wrote. Commissioners agree that transparency is essential to all work, including deliberations and outreach, or even deliberations, outreach, and communications, but can move on. Um, let's see, what did I write? Accordingly, commissioners are required to notify the commission coordinator of verbal communications with interest groups and all communications with media. So I made two comments. The first is was just a clarification about how to notify. So we could write notify the commission coordinator via written or verbal or something like that. Just for clarity. And then the second comment, yeah, it's more about it goes back to the question of social media. Um, all
Yes.
verbal communications with interest groups and all communications with media. And I think I just wasn't sure if social media is something that we should address in the bylaws. Um, I know we talked about if an individual is using social media, they just have to say that they're doing so not on behalf of the commission, but on behalf of themselves. So maybe we don't need to broach that subject here. But if there were ever a point where that changes and the full commission is involved with a social media account, for example, as a way to increase accessibility to our work, which I could see happening someday, maybe, even though it triggers like public forum, I just thought it's worth considering here.
Thank you. Any Commissioner Dan?
Commissioner Dan D3. Yes, first on the notify point. Um, yeah, I think maybe we should specify, and it maybe should be written. Would be my like initial my gut reaction. Like a written, if you are doing communications with an industry group or media, an outlet or something, like that should be give like you need to communicate that with in some kind of recordable way. And written is the kind of the at least my gut reaction being like, yeah, that could then be at least literally traced back to the commissioner and then how it's happening as a communication medium. And then as far as the social media thing, 100% agree, Commissioner Maya. Like, um, I think we should say something about it here. Be honest, like it's ubiquitous in our culture. It could easily happen. We could easily, yeah, to your point, like communicate and try to say what we're saying about what we're doing on the commission with the climate action plan, et cetera, through social media. So it should be addressed somehow. I don't have a good sentence at the moment for how to do that, but um, yeah, at least initially maybe notify in written, required to notify in a written way. I don't know. Yeah. in email. Maybe we've done that in other parts of the bylaws. Notifying an email has been one of our go-tos. But yeah.
Thank you. So if anyone has amendment to that effect, please propose it. I don't know exactly where we'd want to go with that. I do know the city of Portland is getting rid of a bunch of social media accounts and there's less of them. So the odds of us getting one anytime soon is very, 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 very low. So because they're trying to make less of them and put them all under a larger city account where they can interact. So those kinds of like things about us might show up on social media, but it would just wouldn't be our own social media. And that's there's many reasons for that, but one could see these headlines about the budget in the city and know one reason why we want to not have as many things to look after. Commissioner Maya?
Yeah, Commissioner Maya speaking. I understand that it's unlikely at this time, but I feel like we're building the bylaws for a long-term uh, structure. And I I just feel that it's hard to, I mean, yeah, I just trying to account for something beyond the current moment, in hopes that the commission would continue for years into the future and we adequately respond to climate change someday. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think even if it's unlikely, it's very possible it could come up beyond our cohort of commissioners.
Would it be something as simple with verbal communications with issues and all communication with media, comma, including social media, or does it have to be a more in depth? Just because we could, if we did someday have a social media account, come back and add specifics. Because without knowing what we're gonna have, it's hard to make rules. So we these rules are just gonna apply to people's own social medias, posts or interactions, right? Commissioner Dan?
Commissioner Dan D3. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. One additional weave, yeah, including social media, I think could cover that, right? And social media, the landscape will change over the years. It's already, we all know how much has changed every year. So,
Yeah.
so maybe it's like, well, it's like communication with media and social media that I don't know, that maybe sounds slightly awkward, but like, um,
I think including social media, like Christian Maya put in the chat, I think does cover it. That is
yeah,
so
that's
many
perfect.
media
Yeah.
is very broad. I like the call out because oftentimes people hear the word media and don't think about social media because it's so personal, some of it. So the call out I think is important. But keeping it broad also, if people have questions, they can just go to Elaine, right? So, okay. Any other comments about this section? Commissioner Maya.
Yes, Commissioner Maya speaking. I had one other comment. I'm just going to read the sentence and then refer to my comment. Commissioners are required to copy the Chief Sustainability Officer, Commission Coordinator, and co-chairs on all written communications with interest groups, in parentheses, other than a group specifically represented by a commissioner, commenting on the commission's deliberations. I find this to be a little bit confusing. Like I am interpreting this as people represent organizations and they work on the commission and they're not having to share all of their organizations communications with the commission. But I don't think the wording, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think the wording indicates that. How did others interpret that?
Elaine?
Something I want to add here is that um, commissioners are required to disclose any conflict of interests. So if you are deliberating on something, they are represented by a specific interest group outside of the commission, they are already required to disclose a conflict of interest.
And as a reminder, you disclose those not only early on where you should have disclosed them all to Elaine, but also when those conversations are happening. So I hope those ethics laws we don't have to write into our bylaws because those are the laws. So I'd hope that everyone was following those. Commissioner Dan.
Commissioner Dan, D3. Then because we address conflicts of interest, do we need this sentence at all then? Like here?
Yeah, I think in my opinion, it's important for people to know just any of these things is just important for Elaine to know. Like I've been in other groups where we had to institute this because you start finding that inevitably someone has a conversation and it gets back to Elaine or Vivian or someone, and then if they have no idea, it becomes a problem. But if they know exactly what to do and how to handle
Well,
it.
no, what I mean is like because we already have that conflict of interest like rule. Does this sentence still make sense to just have it?
Which one?
The other than a group specifically represented by a commissioner. You know what I'm like, and maybe we just keep it. But like it's a confusing sentence, but it already is implied because of conflict of interest rules that we have already.
Commissioner Maya?
Yeah, Commissioner Maya speaking. So, Commissioner Dan, if I understand correctly, you're saying because we already have conflict of interest rules in place, we don't necessarily need to specify the point in parentheses, which is that groups specifically represented by a commissioner are exempt from this. And then I don't know. I didn't necessarily want to respond to that in particular, but I was just curious if this is only for groups. I mean, the way it's written is interest groups commenting on the commission's deliberations. So this doesn't apply to it doesn't apply to written communication with interest groups who are just seeking to share information or meet with commissioners outside of deliberations. And do we need to clarify that? Do we need to address that? Do we need to copy the chief sustainability officer, commission coordinator, and co-chairs on separate meetings that don't pertain to deliberations?
Yeah, I think it's important that it does have to do with the work of the commission, right? For us to need to copy everyone. But that being said, how do we know if something is not going to become work of the commission? Shemaya?
Commissioner Maya, just as a more concrete example, when some commissioners were reached out to talk to Reuse Portland after the Reuse Summit, I received best practice guidance from Elaine about copying the co-chairs on those communications so that you all were aware of it. And if we put something like that in bylaws, maybe that could avoid future confusion about what pertains to work and when. So, but I hear your point about it. That I think, yeah, deliberations are key. I just am pulling from that example specifically.
Would it be better just to say commissioners are required to copy, and whoever Elaine thinks should be the copied on all written communications with external groups? That's it. or from their city account. Like we're not gonna obviously
Mm.
go after people's like people talk to external groups about other things all the time. But if they're communicating through their City of Portland account, and the reason I say that is because when you communicate through that avenue, you're communicating as a commissioner. Whether you say or not, it's coming through your commissioner address. It's you're talking as a commissioner because it's coming from that email address. If you do it from your personal email, that's different. But how about just putting commissioners required to copy? I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elaine, but I don't think CSO would want every single one of those emails. But maybe just commission coordinator and co-chairs with on all written communications with external groups. Period. And it's more broad. It includes what it says, and then some. What do you all think about that? If that sounds good, I'll type it unless someone else wants to, because I'm bad at talking and typing. Any thoughts? Even Elaine, if you have thoughts. Elaine has a thumbs up. With all interest groups? Okay. Okay. Elaine?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Maya. For the record, this is Elaine. Uh, do we want to say interest groups or all external groups?
That was my question to Commissioner Dan.
I would say external groups. Yeah, as well.
Commissioner Maya?
Mr. Maya speaking, could you give an example of what would media be? I mean, we obviously have language specifically about media, but an example of what a non-interest group would be? Is that like media, for example? Or I just want to, just so that I understand who we're talking about broadly. Or it's just to cover us, right?
Well, I think in my opinion, when you think interest group, you'll think like environmental interest groups, things like that. But
Mhm.
most people wouldn't say a utility, for instance, is an interest group. But that's an external group
Mm,
that might have a lot to do with our things we're talking about, right? So if someone
mhm.
is emailing with a utility group, we'd probably want those to be copied as well. So I think having an external group just makes it very broad.
Okay.
Um, Also, sometimes um, it might even be with external parties because I've
Mm,
had situations where people communicated with members of the public and then didn't copy the coordinator or the co-chairs, and then we had to like go back and because then they reached out to the chairs and they were like, oh well, this person said this, and we were never copied. So then we changed it so that those should be copied as well. So we might just want to see, yeah, exactly, external parties and groups, because you don't know if you're talking to a single person that emailed you their thoughts, and we've already had that happen. If you respond, where they're going to take that information to. So, okay. Maya, thank you so much for typing all the things I say because I can't type them. I appreciate it immensely. I just want you to know. Any other comments? Okay. Is there anything else on communications? Good discussion, though. I think all committees should be only 3 people or 4 people. Feels like you get a lot done. Okay. There's no more comments. We're going to vote. All people for yes for the changes we have made for this section. Raise your hand, please. Okay. That's 4. 4 yeses. Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Is amendment of bylaws the last section? Ooh. Amendment of bylaws. This is a very straightforward section. Do we have any comments, questions, changes? Commissioner Maya?
Yes, Commissioner Maya speaking. I don't have any changes. I'm just more so curious, just to talk through so that I understand. At any time, the commission can vote to recommend amendments or repeal. Okay. So at any time, the bylaws can be repealed. Or what if everybody votes, or if there's a modified consensus about it, these can be repealed. And do we want to say do we want to say, I mean, I don't think we necessarily need to, but do we want to say anything about what happens after they're repealed, or it's just implied that something will happen?
You
Or
if
do
you yeah, if you can't repeal them and have nothing. So I mean you're required to have bylaws, so you'd have to
okay. Okay.
have new ones, right?
Yeah, yeah. Just
Yeah.
trying to avoid confusion where possible. But yeah, okay. Mhm.
Yeah. Commissioner Dan.
Commissioner Dan, is that implicit or is that explicit though? Like, is that like, or is it like a certain number? Do we want to specify like a certain percentage of commissioners have to like repeal the bylaws?
We could that I've
Or
seen bylaws where because if we don't say how many people need to vote to repeal the bylaws, it's just going to be 50% plus one. But we could say to repeal the bylaws, we need 2/3 of commissioners to vote to repeal them. Like,
okay, but
so we could
but
do,
there's like or there is a number that exists even without us
yes,
saying it, like 50 plus
yes,
one. Okay.
yes.
Um, and then I guess a second question, um, what actually to Maya's question. So like if bylaws are repealed, then we don't have to specify that there is a pause on commission duties, or we don't have to specify that then a new bylaw committee has to be created.
No, Elaine, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the city require the commission to have bylaws, operating bylaws? Yes. So because the city requires us to have those, we couldn't just repeal them, have nothing, because we are required as an entity to have those. So we don't have to state that again. Um, it's already a requirement under the city. But if we want to make it tougher to do repeals or amendments, we can. Commissioner Dan?
Yeah, I was what I was gonna say is I personally am fine with the 50 plus one vote. If any other commissioners like, but I also would be okay with voting for more strict things. But I'm fine with 50 plus one and not having to specify anything.
I personally have never seen in like 10 plus years of being on boards and things with bylaws a repeal, but you see a lot of amendments of bylaws, right? But I've never seen anyone try to repeal bylaws en masse. Um, Although I have seen very large bylaws conventions where we like do nothing but fix bylaws. Um, so that can happen. And that's why like the social media thing, just putting a very vague thing, we can always go back and add the details later. Commissioner Maya?
Yes, Commissioner Maya speaking. So you mentioned Commissioner Jose, you've seen lots of amendments. And so I see in the License Commission has no authority to amend bylaws without approval. So it would come down to CSO
Yeah,
approving the process to even
that's
get to an amendment.
yeah, and that's the case with these two. Like what we're doing now is not just we approve them and that's it. No, we approve them because the city attorney has approved them, the CSO has approved them. We're as much as a lot of this process is us doing things, we don't have the end say. They then go to Vivian. Well, they go to the city attorney to make sure, and then Vivian to make sure, and then they can be approved. It's like a
So
umbrella.
So it's in any meeting, for example, I truly don't have any changes to necessarily recommend. I just want to fully understand what it's saying. So in any meeting, a commissioner can propose that we have a process of amendment, and then it would be up to the CSO to either accept or to either put onto the agenda that we're going to have an amendment process or not.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Ideally, it would be like something comes up that points out that something in our bylaws is not working or is wrong. So then we tell the co-chairs and the CSO, who would then put it on the agenda. So we have it planned for it and have everything set up ahead of time. It'd probably come up at a meeting, but it'd probably get voted on the next meeting after we had like notice and things go out and everything. But yes, things happen when you make bylaws. You don't know what's going to happen, so things will come up and be like, this section doesn't work for us, even though everyone had all the best intentions. The world changes, things change, unanticipated things happen, and then we will deal with them. Luckily, we have a very engaged CSO that's also very reasonable human, who I don't think will ever be a hindrance to doing this. I've been part of other groups where like the person in charge is not the person you want to be in charge of whether or not you get to change your bylaws. So yeah. Are there any other changes to the amendment of bylaws? Elaine.
Thank you, Co-Chair Jose. I just want to mention that this first sentence is also, in a sense, protecting the commission in case we get a new CSO who really does not want to engage in that way. This gives the commission a process of doing amendments of the bylaws.
Yes, thank you, Elaine. Yeah, and just a reminder, the in code it says that the CSO does all our agendas, but that doesn't mean that we can't propose changes to the agenda publicly at a public meeting and then force the CSO to say yes or no. Like, I hope we don't ever have to do that, but that is a tactic towards if you're suggesting an agenda change or a bylaws change behind the scenes and the CSO is not moving on it, and a majority of you think it's important, you can bring it up at a public meeting and the CSO can answer publicly why they don't think something can happen. Like I said, I honestly don't think that's a thing right now. But like Elaine said, maybe this commission in 10 years has a whole new CSO, and then it does become an issue. Any other comments before we vote on this section? Okay, section 8. Wing.
Sorry, for the record, Wing Grabowski, just for point in process, I went outside of our agreement and I heard some small edits, which I went ahead and made in document. I just want to confirm that those are seen before you vote. And I couldn't get to my hand raise button fast enough. I apologize.
No problem. I appreciate it, Wing. I did see those changes and I love that they were made. So I appreciate you keeping up with our conversation. It's just at any time. I think that puts all of us at ease and it speaks to the concerns that Commissioner Maya brought up and that Commissioner Dan also backed up. So I think it is a great change. And if anyone thinks otherwise, please speak up. Seeing no speaking up, we'll go back to the vote. All the yeses, please raise your hand. Any stand asides? Any noes? Okay, section passes. Thank you very much. And that is everything. We are done very early, but before we just move on, are there anything you think as you were thinking were missed. I don't want to keep us longer just to keep us longer, but then I'd rather have that conversation here right now than have a huge giant conversation at our commission meeting with 20 people, and it's going to be take 1,000 times longer and be harder to parse all those thoughts out. So if anyone has any questions or thoughts or something about a section we've already covered that's come up since we've covered it, what please speak up now so that we can talk about them. Okay, seeing none. Okay, we can skip the break because we're not going to a break. Okay, commissioner feedback form. Please fill out your commissioner feedback form. The link is already in the chat, which is great because the way I do it is if I don't do it now, I forget. So please click on the link and open it on your tab and consider it part of finishing up this meeting for you. We do go over them. And the next steps. Reminder, next meeting, Bylaws Committee meeting, May 6th, 6 to 8. That will be Commissioner Dan.
Oh, two things. I was gonna say I love our new picture. Dan. Oh, and actually I was gonna ask about if we're having another meeting. So I guess you're
Yes.
literally covering that right now.
Yeah, we have the next meeting because remember, now that we've made all the changes, now they go to the attorney and they go to the CSO and they look over them for the final time, and then we have to look at them again and then move on. Hopefully it'll be a quick meeting. The updated bylaws draft will be sent out. The final thoughts will then be due by Monday, April 27th. And then that is what we will go to the full commissioner meeting later in May. But that is everything. Thank you all for being so amazing. Thank you, Commissioner Luna, for taking time out of whatever they were doing to get on the phone in the car and so we could have quorum because this was a very productive meeting. Thank you, Commissioner Ryan, Commissioner Dan. See you all next time.
See you next week.
And thank you, Elaine and Wing, as always.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.